Lyme disease is very, very much spelled Epstein-Barr. These are new words that we are experiencing in the medical world. And the German has a whole article on Lyme disease. If you just send them self-addressed, they will send it to you. So that's, you get right there. Anyway, how many of you are here tonight for the first time? Ooh, quite a few of you. One of the things we've got to feel about Dr. Nasr's lectures, you can see he's been coming for almost 2 years. We have had every kind of weather that it is possible to have, from freezing cold to downpour, and we're going to have Noah's Ark this thing. Have you in the blue section of yesterday's journal, where the headline said, Nutrition's role, doctors are learning too. Wasn't that an interesting article? Those of us who have known Dr. Nasr and have been patients of his for many, many years feel extremely fortunate because we have found a doctor who had his PhD in biochemistry before he became an MD. He was an agronomist. And so he understood all of these things. And then he became a doctor and applied the principle that we need nutrition to keep us well. There's the old story about the car. If it runs out of gas or oil or whatever, it's not going to work very well. Well, the same thing goes for our body. And tonight, we are very, very fortunate that he's going to tell us about our digestive system and what happens. You can eat all the things in the world, but if you go to digestive and absorption, they won't do you any good. For those of you who are new, Dr. Nasr is an MD. He was, after he finished medical school, he was just a general practitioner, so he was internal medicine residency, he was cardiology residency, and he's absolutely the most brilliant doctor I've ever known in my life. So please give a warm, wet, and filling welcome to our dear friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just came from Phoenix about a couple of days ago, where I give a lecture there in Phoenix every 3 years. Every 4 years they reserve one lecture. And they ask me why I lecture in Milwaukee every other month and don't lecture in Phoenix, more often than every 3 years. I told them, I like the people more over there. It was a joke, but they understood it as a joke. The lecture tonight is about the digestive system. We trying to select the topics. I try to select the topics I speak about from my own practice. What I see the most common, then that's the subject I should speak about. And it's very easy for me to stand and speak about certain diseases, like the digestive system diseases, because not only I have the background in nutrition, practicing medicine as an internist and doing gastroscopies and colonoscopies and all of that, and seeing in front of my eye how much the nutrition can change the digestive system and how much the poor digestive system can affect the general health of the body. For the last 15, 17 years, we've been lecturing on vitamin E, vitamin C, arthritis, and heart disease, and cancer, and immunity, all of these important things. But never before I thought to give a lecture on the digestive system. Then about, I think 4 months ago, we decided to do that. I'm going to talk about the digestive system. I forgot that when I start thinking a few minutes ago or half an hour ago what I'm going to be speaking about, I forgot there's about 40, 50 diseases of the digestive system. Each one would take 1 hour to cover. And so I had to make it very simple to you today. For the people here who are here for the first time, we usually cover a little bit about the previous lectures. However, tonight's lecture, because it's very extensive, I'm not going to cover any of the previous lectures. We're going to move ahead right away and speak about how much the digestive system can affect and influence everything about you. We know for a fact one thing, that I drew a triangle about 20 years ago when I started learning about nutrition and food. In my mind, I thought the causes of diseases that it can be prevented, it has to be nutrition or chemicals or stress. That time, those days, I had enough knowledge from nutrition and biochemistry and agriculture to come with such theory. Those days, to try to come out with something like that in front of the doctors like the best in the world, the biggest, the most famous, Debaki and this, all these famous people, you come from nowhere and say, I think we're missing the boat. I think there are other causes behind diseases called nutritional problem or a chemical exposure or stress that we've been under too much. 20 years ago, when somebody starts saying nutrition can affect the disease, you get arrested for that. As a matter of fact, I was arrested in Richland Center, Wisconsin, 1971, when I said that vitamin E and vitamin C and vegetables can prevent heart problems, and fish oil and all of this can have some help against heart disease. And the police came and says, you misleading the public. Those days, people like Adele Davis, for example, you heard about her, I'm sure, in Pasadena. She wrote lots of books. She was not the big famous medical doctor or the biochemist or the Nobel Prize winner, but she did more than any of them. She came out for the first time to tell people, I think if we're going to have a healthy society, healthy children, we better pay attention to nutrition. I'm sure lots of you heard about Adele Davis, right? Some of you have not, maybe because you knew. She's one of the original founders. Adele Davis also was arrested talking about her nutrition. She had difficulty publishing her book. Dr. Linus Pauling comes in after earning 2 Nobel Prizes, and all the time he's working toward his Nobel Prize degrees, he believed in nutrition inside him, but he had the fear to talk about it because his grant can be canceled for his research. And when he finished with his Nobel Prize and talked about it, he was called a quack, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. So nowadays, it's a different story. Nowadays, it's easy to talk about. And now, if you remember, some of you heard me about, anybody here heard me about 10, 15 years ago, I'm sure some of you in this room, those days we used to come to a lecture and says, nobody should tape, nobody should do this, nobody should do that. There was a fear. Of course, for the last 6 years, since I became an internist about 10 years ago, since then, I had no problem. But before that, we have lots of problems. The nutrition, to deliver nutrients to the human body inside, it has to go through the digestive system. You understand that? And the nutrients the body needs to build good health are protein, carbohydrates, and fat, vitamins, water, and mineral, and oxygen. From previous lecture, we remember that. And we talked about in previous lecture that the best protein, which one? Vegetable protein or animal protein? Vegetable protein is the best kind, and if we have to have animal protein, we should eat more poultry and fish products. We talked about carbohydrates and starches, and we talked about simple carbohydrates, that is sugars and fruit, versus complex carbohydrates and the role of that in our health. You remember that previous lecture, we said which one is better for us, simple carbohydrates or complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates in the form of starches. We talked about oil and butter and margarine. We talked about animal fat and a vegetable oil. Which one is better for the human body, you think? Of course, it is obvious now that vegetable oil is a lot better than animal fat. We talked about the necessity of taking extra vitamins, drinking lots of water, taking more minerals, and all of these things. How do these things enter the body to fight disease then? To understand that, you have to understand the human body inside, how it is built. If you look at the human body, built from skeleton, which is a bone like this, made from thousands, units, and millions of cells. The bone, which we talked about in the calcium and osteoporosis, I believe was last lecture, the bone that its function to improve the immune system, to defend the body against disease, to support the body and prevent arthritis, all of this needs nutrients there. That's the protein and the carbohydrate and the fat and the vitamins and the water and the mineral and the oxygen. Without delivering this to the bone will develop disease, and we talked about that. We cover this body with skin, and then we find that this body inside have organs such as the heart that sends the food to all over the body, and the heart and the blood vessels also, to do their job right, they made of cells, and also they have to have the protein and everything delivered to them. You follow me so far? And inside this body, there are other organs. There are the brain right here that it needs also the same nutrients to do its job. And the lung right here, that it needs the same nutrients to do the job. And the liver here, that it needs the same nutrients to do a good job. And the kidneys, and all over the body, every organ needs the same nutrient to do a good job. If nutrition is so important, why do we have disease if we eat good food? Maybe because, number one, we're not digesting it right. Maybe we're not absorbing it after we eat it. Maybe there is something missing right there. You understand? And there is no test, is an accurate test to tell you that. How can I tell that my digestive system is not working? How would you tell? How would you tell is because you are taking good care of yourself, you are eating the proper diet, you're avoiding chemicals, you're avoiding stress, doing exercises and all of that, and still aging and still developing disease. If that is the case, maybe the digestive system missing one of these nutrients. To look to the digestive system inside, we start with the upper part and go down below. Digestive system starts with the mouth right here, and the tongue like this in it, and the esophagus comes down like that, and the teeth right here, the salivary gland right here that secretes saliva. Then we go down to where the esophagus that carry the food to the stomach. Remember, when I'm traveling down, any problem in here or here or here will lead to a disaster in the end, which is malabsorption, or you're going to miss something. You follow me or not? You cannot minimize the role of any of these things from above to below. Everyone has its own function. And the problem in medicine I have found, some people will ignore their saliva, that they don't have enough. They ignore the teeth, that it has function. They ignore that the esophagus has to take the food down. And many people, especially when we get older, we can't eat very much, and the food gets stuck, and the people will tend to eat less and less, and they eat less and less, they develop malnutrition. And we go from here to the stomach, where the food we just ate will get digested. And then we go to the small intestine, that duodenum, and the small bowel, where the food gets what? Absorbed. Then we go to the colon, like this, where the food gets eliminated. So you know the trip from up is all the way down. Something's got to go wrong. When you look at the digestive system, there is something about it that all the digestive system here, from all the way down, which is several feet long, it's about 30 feet long, the digestive system, all of it lined with cells, all the way down. And the reason I mention that is because that's what happens when we have a problem in absorption. Some of those cells start drying up or get disease, and something will happen. The food we eat from outside, the protein and the carbohydrates and the fat and the vitamins and the water and the mineral, has to be digested and broken down to tiny pieces so it can get absorbed in the intestine right here, and it goes in the bloodstream as a small pieces. You follow me or no? When you eat a piece of cheese, it has to be digested, become like milk, and enter the bloodstream, the piece of cheese like milk. Purely digested. If you eat a piece of meat, it has to be digested like water, like milk. Anything you eat, it doesn't matter how hard it is, it becomes inside the bowel like this water. Exactly. That consistency like this water right here. It's not solid. When it travels in the small bowel, it travels in water. When it gets to the colon, it gets harder then. You understand that? And when you feel the gurgling and the gas and the movement and all of that, is because the water is just sloshing all the way around. It has to be in a water form like a chicken soup. If you take the digestive system and look at it, it's like a miracle. You take, for example, right here, the taste buds in the mouth. Once they feel a food coming, they immediately, these taste buds, they notify the brain and tell the brain that person just ate something salty, something sweet, some starches, some vegetables. Whatever you ate, they have to tell the brain that. It's a good idea, isn't it? Because it is not just a kiosk inside that anything goes in and everything goes out. No, everything is very well organized inside the human body. If you taste something wrong, that it tastes of like danger, like an acid, like a poison, like something very better, also the message goes to the brain, something is wrong. You follow me? There is tremendous anatomy involved right here. This is the picture of the tongue, connected down right here in the bottom and of the mouth. These taste buds, the cells, they have guys sitting right here like this, with hands like that. And what they do, they take the food and taste it, anything you eat, and see what it tastes like. We call them the taste buds. They have a little telephone, each one of them, and call the brain and tell them what's going on. So the moment the food touches the tongue, or the moment even before it comes to the tongue, there is around this area right here of the mouth, even there are cells to watch food. They are specialized to watch for food. The eye. If you look at food, you get hungry. What happens? The cells of the eye can identify a food and tell the brain, I want that. Then the digestive system, all of it, gets telephone calls from the brain, wiring like this, tell the brain, all of you get ready for food is coming. The ear can hear food cooking, and the digestive system starts working. The nose can smell the food, and the digestive system starts working. And the taste buds can taste the food, and the digestive system starts working. When the food comes in, a piece of protein like this, protein is made from millions units of what? What's a piece of cheese or meat made of? Units of what connected to each other? Amino acids. There's no cells in food. And this piece of cheese right here, or piece of beef, or piece of fish, cannot enter the bloodstream like this. When we take blood from people and analyze it, we don't see pieces of fish or pieces of rice or piece of cheese in the blood. We see that everything is digested and absorbed. These guys right here, they look at a piece of food right here that 1 million units of amino acids connected together, and when it hits the small bowel, right here, it has to be single unit of amino acids. Are you following me now? There is a chain, 1 million links long, and the digestive system has to break each link to single unit. That's a very difficult job. You understand that? This, once the food comes to the mouth, the saliva should start coming out right here, and they break down the food from 1 million units down to 100,000 units. When the food reaches the stomach, this is the beginning of the true digestion. But you cannot ignore one problem we all been doing. The more you chew food, the better it is for the digestive system. The less you chew food, the worse it is for the rest of the digestive system. You follow me? So when we developed soft food, easy to eat, cakes, milkshakes, things that we missed the function of the saliva completely and loaded the stomach with the whole burden down below. You understand that? And that is the beginning of the problem. That we have to try to eat food in a solid form, not in a liquid type of form. So if we're going to eat protein, it's better be beans itself, not the beans blended in a blender in soupy form and drink it. You understand the difference right here. If we're going to have a piece of chicken, it's better that we can chew that piece of chicken rather than blend it and make a liquid out of it and drink it. Because the saliva here has enzymes that they come out and help the stomach. The stomach is a very strong digestive organ. And we go down, leave this area right here and go down. What diseases we have developed in our mouth? We developed dry saliva. We developed inability to chew the right food, chew it properly for a long period of time because we're always in a hurry to eat so fast so we can go someplace else. So the food, rather than a function you do right, it becomes like something you have to do very fast so you can do something else. And even when the digestive system, like you're supposed to eat a meal and rest a little bit and give the body a chance to organize it, you eat and run or eat and go. And you can't expect the body to do two things in one time. It can, but it will not do a good job. By eating and thinking at the same time, it doesn't work. By eating and running at the same time, it doesn't work. By eating and going to sleep after that also doesn't work, because that you need a little bit of movement. You can't just drop, after you eat and say, here, to the stomach, take it, and then let's see what happens. You need that. So the best thing animals do when you watch animals, they take their time when they eat. God given the computer to tell them, don't eat too much. But man is smarter than animals. And what man does, just gobbles everything so fast. And that is problem number one. People who have cavities, people who have teeth problems, people who have dentures, if they don't chew food properly, then we're going to deliver food in 1 million units rather than 100,000 units. This means the stomach has to do 10 times more work to digest the food. You follow me so far? Let us follow the food a little bit down below and look at what happened here. The second part is the swallowing. Well, swallowing itself, esophagus itself, is a tube. It has to be very well lubricated. You cannot expect that tube to be scratched all the time. Because when you eat food, you're supposed to have some water with it. You're supposed to chew it if you don't have water. So the saliva itself is a lubricant. But when you eat a bite and then chew it fast and swallow it, and that's hard food or hard bread or hard meat or hard something, it scratches all the way down when it goes down to the stomach. You understand that or not? The esophagus is a tube. Maybe I can find something here. Yeah, the esophagus is a tube as big as this thing right here. And it expands a little bit, not a lot, because it can't expand too much. Around it is the heart, is the lung, is the trachea, everything, and you can't just have the food comes in and the esophagus says push everything aside so the food can go through. So everything has to be in a small quantity going down, not a large lump sum of food. It has to be a smaller bite. The problem I have seen in medicine, and lots of you are young, and lots of you are older, is this problem. When I look inside the esophagus, 90% of the people above the age of 50, rather than see the esophagus nice and smooth like this, and this is the stomach right here, we find ulcers and scars and all kinds of things all the way down. When you get older then, these scars become stiff, and when you start to eating something solid, it gets stuck. Every time it gets stuck down below, and the more it gets stuck, the more it irritates to the esophagus, and the more it irritates to the esophagus, the danger of suffocation is there, but there is another danger. The more you irritate any part of your body, just any part, the more you irritate it, the chance of having cancer in that place is high. There is a correlation between irritation and cancer for some reason. I have no proof to see why. But when I watch patients, for example, female patients that they are prostitutes, we see more cancer of the vagina in them than women who are not. When we see patients that are homosexual, they have rectal irritation, we see more cancer in them than the other people. When we see people in their mouth, they smoke cigars, and the tobacco irritates tremendously, we see more cancer of the tongue and the throat. When we see people that they have always not eating enough food and chewing it with vegetables and natural food, we see more cancer of the esophagus. You understand? We don't understand why, if I open my internal medicine book, I find out there is no answer. As a matter of fact, 99% of the things I do, I find no answer in the book because I'm ahead of what the book is doing when it comes to nutrition. So right here we start telling people, not only you should chew food properly, swallow it in a smaller quantity, and if you have difficulty swallowing it, drink some water with it and let it be lubricated. But if you remember the lecture of vitamin C, we talked about vitamin C in one tape, and we said vitamin C makes the saliva production more viscous, and the mucosa is more slippery in people who are healthier. You remember that or not? Well, if you don't, believe me, that's the truth about it. Okay, the food will come here. If you look at the food coming down, if you look at the human body here, there is something happen. You can divide. You can go with a knife and cut the body in half, and you'll find two sections. The section above the diaphragm is all blood and air. The section below the diaphragm, all digestion and intestinal, bowels and guts and all of that stuff. Between them, there is something called the diaphragm. It's a piece of paper, a little bit thick, called the diaphragm. I'm sure you heard about diaphragm. The diaphragm functions to prevent the bowel from going to the chest, strangulating the heart at night when you sleep. Can you imagine if we don't have a diaphragm and you sleep upside down, and all of a sudden the bowels be coming out through the other side, and the heart. That is the reason the diaphragm is there. The diaphragm function also, it's like a heart. It gets small and big. The diaphragm is like this. It gets small and big. It gets small and big all the time. All small and big all the time. What it's doing, when it gets big, it sucks air. Because this is a balloon. Okay. When it gets big, you have to have air go inside to compensate for the volume. Are you following me? That's breathing. That's why we breathe, because the diaphragm does that automatically. And when you have hiccups, you can't breathe because the diaphragm is getting irritated by something. The diaphragm have holes in it. This is a picture right here of a chest and the back of a person that's being cut this way, and the head will be toward here and the legs toward that. The diaphragm looks like this, and it has holes in it. Correct? A hole allowing the food to the stomach. A hole allowing what else? The blood to come down from the heart, the aorta, which is this big, bigger than the esophagus, and a hole to allow the blood to go back to the heart. These three holes. Having lax diaphragm means there is no exercise. The person is not exercising his diaphragm. He's not doing deep exercise, breathing and exercises. The diaphragm gets lazy, and there is problem. You have to sometimes remember to take a breath. But the problem when the diaphragm gets lax, the stomach bulges up in the right here through the diaphragm, and it comes out right here. And the stomach, when it goes like that, we call that what? Hiatal hernia. Hiatal hernia, when the part of the stomach goes to the chest. Is hiatal hernia curable or not? If you exercise. Yes. Once you exercise and the diaphragm gets strong, the stomach falls below and the hiatal hernia disappears. The body has the ability to always heal itself. Above the diaphragm sits right here organ called what? The heart. When a hiatal hernia pushes up, it pushes the heart to the side, and you have pain right in the chest. We call it heartburn. That's the word heartburn came from. It is not the heart itself is burning. It's because the burning in the area of the heart. But having a hernia can cause a heart attack. How is that? Just you can imagine this. Here is a pump, a heart pumping freely, and all of a sudden food pushing against it on one side. That area of the heart that's been pushed aside, it can have a heart attack. So food can be related to heart disease. That's why we say when you have a heartburn, be sure it's not a heart attack first, before you assume it is your stomach. 50% of heartburn can be from heart attack, and 50% is from the stomach. For another reason, if you look at the stomach, maybe we use this section right here. If you look at the stomach, sits right here, and the heart sits right here. Sometime when the heart having a heart attack in this area here, the heart attack is irritation in the heart. It touches the diaphragm, it touches the stomach, and the only symptom you might have is a heartburn. You understand that? So when we're speaking about digestive system, I'm going to warn you against the heart in the same time. I had a patient one time, 39 years old, came to me. His wife brought him over 100 miles away, very busy man, very successful businessman, and then she said, I don't like the way Gary looks. And she forced him somehow to come all the way 100 miles. I saw him 3 years before, and I checked him all over and everything was okay, but I noticed there are signs of problems in him. I told him, I think you're heading toward problems. I think you might have a heart attack one of these days. I think you might have a hiatal hernia. I think you might have a stroke. I think you might have cancer. Because your style of life is not very good style. You yourself, if you set yourself, and I tell you, I'm busy, I eat junk food, I smoke, I drink, or that, you're going to tell me I'm heading in the wrong direction, right or wrong. It doesn't take a brain to figure that. When he came back, he had a heartburn, indigestion. And I told him, you have indigestion, I think we should check your heart. He said, what are you talking about? I have a stomach problem. And it's ulcer, doctor. I said, well, let's check the heart. He insisted, one of the smart people, that I should give him anti-acid first. If the pain goes away, he doesn't need the stress test. If it doesn't go away, he takes the stress test. And I hate that because I know I'm right and I know he's wrong. But I don't have the time to convince a stupid person to be smart. So I said, well, this is his body. Well, I'm giving him the advice. Either he listens, doesn't matter. So I told him, what do you want to do? He said, give me a Maalox, and if it goes away, I go home. I said, fine. Here's your Maalox, take it and go home. Then he drank his tea, went away, doctor. I'm fine right now. I said, still, I'm warning you, that could be a heart attack. The chances is 1%. But don't take a chance, 1%. We put him in the treadmill, stress test. First of all, when we put somebody on the treadmill, we hook them to the electrodes, we look at the picture. Once we saw the picture, I said, stop everything. This guy is having a massive heart attack. In the picture. I didn't tell him that. I told him, sit down. How are you feeling? He said, I'm feeling fine. I said, all right. Sit down right here. I went down to his wife. I said, we're going to have to call an ambulance. Where do you want him to go? She said, what are you talking about? I said, he's having a massive heart attack. His heart about in the worst location. And my feeling is he's not going to make it even if we have, whatever we're going to do is not going to help him. It's too late. And you try to tell somebody who's sitting laughing, watching TV, playing with the kids and the husband having digestion that, they said, you're crazy, but you got to tell the truth. It doesn't matter. Of course, we do it slowly. We bring it. And then I explained to her, I know the truth. I know this is the truth. And then they selected to get an ambulance and go to a special hospital. They went to the hospital. In 10 days, he died. Which I knew from the location of the heart attack he's going to die because the heart's going to rupture. It's going to blow up. There's nothing you can do. So anyway, the question is, I asked her after his death, how often was he getting a heartburn? He said, every night. When he's 10 attacks, he have a heartburn. He takes Mylansa. 90% of the time when you have a heartburn, it is the stomach. But got to remember, the heart just sits across the road from it, just next to it. When one have a problem, the other can have a problem too, because they're next to each other. So that stomach, what are the symptoms? What does the stomach do? When the food comes to the stomach right here, it's already 100,000. And right here it has to be a single unit, 1. The stomach inside it, there is a guy sitting right here also with a binocular looking upstairs to everything you eat. Mr. Gastrin, hormone gastrin, inside the stomach, he already had a message. There's food coming. He knew there is a food coming. The guy has been chewing, he's been smelling, he's been seeing, so he's already gargling, ready for it. He called the brain. He tell him, I see the piece of hamburger coming from above. I see the piece of bread. I see the piece of chicken. I see whatever. And we are ready for it. What happened inside the stomach? The reason I'm going to talk about the stomach here because lots of people depend on taking things from outside to help them digest food. You should not do that. You should force your system, your stomach, to make its own digestive juice. You understand that? Lots of doctors and people, when you have indigestion, give you stuff to help you digest. You've got to make the stomach start doing its own job. The stomach looks like this. Stomach has tissue right here. It has cells like this. The cells in the stomach are not really a human cell. They are human cells, but they are special human cells. The reason behind it is the only cell in the body resistant to acid. The stomach have glands right here secretes hydrochloric acid. Whenever you smell food, hydrochloric acid comes out. Have you heard about hydrochloric acid in the stomach? How strong do you think hydrochloric acid in the stomach is? Let me give you an example. pH. Everybody heard about the pH. pH 0 is the most powerful acid. pH 7 is neutral. pH 14 is the most powerful what? Alkaline. So pH 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 So pH 0 is stronger than 1. pH 0 is 100 times more concentrated acid than pH 1. pH 1 is 100 times more concentrated acid than pH 2. pH 0 is 10,000 times more concentrated acid than pH 2. Are you following me or not? It multiplies itself all the time. So the pH is very high. If you put a piece of bone in the stomach, take it and sit it in the stomach, a big piece of bone, in 6 hours it will become like milk, completely water. Liquid, complete liquid, without any digestion. Just the acid itself alone will eat it. I think you've got to appreciate a little bit how powerful is your body is. Very difficult to make a human body sick. Only time to make a body sick is when you abuse it all the time. Give the body chance, 99% of the time it heals itself. Stomach, brain, everything, they heal it. You follow me? Give you some hope that somebody said, oh, you have an ulcer. All your life you're going to have ulcer. No, it's not true. You have a hiatal hernia. All your life you're going to have a hernia. It's not true. You always can do something. Of course, there are certain cases you need surgery, you need to remove a tumor. That's a different story. If you put your hand in the stomach of somebody, leave it 4 hours, you come out without a hand. If your baby, you deliver that baby, he just had his first meal and vomits on the diaper, and you don't wash it right away, you will have a hole in it next day. You see? Are you understanding all of that? The acid of the stomach is so powerful. This is why the acid of the stomach does not come out unless food is there or coming. But if the time of the meal comes and the food doesn't come, the acid can come out and burn your stomach, and you will have hunger pain, and you have to eat something. Because you smell food, you think about food, but if you learn how to block it up here, that you smell it, it didn't bother you, you didn't think about it, the acid doesn't come out. That's what dieting, it takes lots of mental power to be busy when you diet so you don't have a heartburn. When the acid comes out, it comes with pH 1. When the food comes with it, it becomes pH 4, which is less acid. When the acid comes out of the stomach, with it comes a small little guy like this. His job to look in the food you ate for one single vitamin. Not vitamin A, not vitamin C, not vitamin E, not vitamin D, not vitamin B1 or B2 or B3 or B4 or B5. He looks only for one specific vitamin and carry it in his hand like this all the way down and deliver it to a guy sits right here in the bowel and give it to him. The name of that vitamin is vitamin B12. Bad stomach do not secrete these guys, and the people develop malabsorption to vitamin B12. And in my practice, I found lots of people, when they have indigestion or stomach problem, when we give them vitamin B12 injection, they feel a lot better. And it is not psychological. When we analyze the blood, we find that there is a problem in the stomach. When the food gets to the stomach and gets digested, it breaks down from 100,000 to 10,000 and leaves the stomach, goes where? To the small intestine, where the pancreas sits right here, secretes what? enzyme to digest the 10,000 units of food and make a single unit out of it, right here. And how long the food sits in the stomach to get digested? If you ate a piece of vitamin, if you ate a tablet of vitamin, it lasts about 1 minute in the stomach, and then it's already pre-digested. If you drank some water, it lasts about a couple minutes in the stomach because you don't digest the water. If you ate some minerals like calcium, it lasts maybe about 5 minutes and then it goes through because it's already pre-digested. If you eat a piece of sugar or something sweet, it lasts in the stomach about 5 minutes only and it goes to the blood after that. And that is a big problem because it can precipitate disease called what? Hypoglycemia, when you eat too many sweets. We talked about that before. If you have a piece of bread, it lasts in the stomach about a couple hours. 1 hour to an hour and a half. The stomach, when it has a piece of bread sitting inside it for 2 hours and gets digested, the carbohydrate gets digested to what? Sugar. And when it breaks down slowly, or piece of protein gets broken down to what? Amino acids. Or it breaks down slowly. The digestion happens one piece at a time. So when you look at the intestine, when the intestine receives the food, it's receiving the food one piece at a time. You follow me? It's not dumped on it. Because the most difficult job God created in the human body, we know of as doctors, is absorption. Absorbing food is more complex than the brain function, is more complex than heart function, is more complex than kidney function. It is the most sophisticated process, is to absorb food. And this is where most of the problem occurs in the patients I see. When the food comes to the small bowel, and let us draw a long small bowel right here. When the food comes to the small bowel, how many amino acids do we eat? Types of amino acids. 23 amino acids. And how many amino acids in a piece of cheese or beef or 1 ounce of milk or any of that? Maybe 100 million amino acids. Every amino acid requires one single cell for itself. Every piece needs its own absorbing cell. You follow me now? And no cell can absorb other things. Each one is specialized only for one thing. This is why the bowels are so long. Because one cell right here, it waits for the amino acids. The other cell right here is waiting for a piece of sugar. Another cell right here is waiting for a piece of fat or oil. Another cell right here waits for vitamin B1. Another one waiting for vitamin B12. Another one for C. You follow me or not? So having intestinal disease, especially if people have surgery, when the surgeon removes a segment, permanently they never will absorb that food again. Remember that. No wonder people with intestinal surgery always need little bit of vitamin injection or vitamin shot. Because that segment is missing, means the cells of that segment is not there, means they're never going to absorb that vitamin again. You follow me? And this is why people with ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel disease, irritable colon, colitis and all of that, they always have malnutrition. Because the cells that absorb the food are not what? Working. Right. The food, when it comes to the bowel, after 2 hours for starches, 3 hours for chicken, 3.5 hours for fish, 5 hours for beef, 7 hours in the stomach for pork, and now you're getting some idea in your head how much work it takes to digest something. The more complex the food coming, the more difficult it is in the stomach to digest it. You follow me or no? So if you eat, for example, which one you feel better when you eat? I'm talking about feeling inside. A cottage cheese or a cheddar cheese? Which one will be easier? The cottage cheese. You notice that. Which one you think it feels better? Yogurt or cheese? The reason behind it is because it's already, yogurt is already pre-digested. And the stomach likes things like that, easy to digest. When you eat a piece of protein made from vegetables like soya protein, alfalfa sprouts, in salads, you know, there's lots of nice proteins we can buy, and they taste good and healthy for us. They last in the stomach about 3 hours, 2-3 hours, and that's all. But when we eat a heavy meal of grease and pork, you feel like it sits on your heart. You feel that sometimes, the pressure itself inside. Because it is such solid, and it has to be converted to what? To liquid. And you take a piece of solid this big, it needs that much liquid, and the stomach gets bigger, and there's so much gas, and so much indigestion, so much heartburn, and you really don't feel good. The only part enjoyed it is the tongue. Remember that. Food all inside the stomach mixed with each other the same way, and it tastes terrible. If it comes back, you know how it tastes. So when it comes to taste of food, remember that in many times the food doesn't taste that good. It's probably better for us. Vegetables doesn't taste very good. Unless you were raised on it. Then it tastes better for you. But you take a kid raised in the city, he never had vegetables, he doesn't want to eat vegetables. It doesn't taste good. Because taste is acquired, not inherited. You can teach taste. So once you're addicted to taste, you miss it. And once you hear the bacon, once you smell it, that's all addiction. And if you think about health, you have to try to modify the lifestyle. But don't ever be fanatic after lectures like this. If you used to eat pork and lard and all, don't go home and throw everything away. Do the gradual change because you believe in health. But if you do it all of a sudden, it's not going to last. You're going to do it because you're excited. A week later, you fill the refrigerator with the same stuff, but you don't want anybody to see it. That's the way we are as a human being. So we have to think about one thing. The old say you are what you eat is true, really true. If you take care of the digestive system, it gives you back good health. And when the food comes in right here to be absorbed, it requires lots of water. Do we have to drink lots of water with meal? No. You shouldn't drink lots of water with meal because if you do that, you're going to dilute what? the acid more. But you need some water. It cannot be all or none. So, but if you eat in vegetables, remember, vegetables, 90% water. So you really don't have to have all these bottles of water drinking with the meal if the food itself is basically well-hydrated food, not dehydrated dry food. So if you have a toast, of course, toast is dry, then you're going to have a glass of water for each toast. But if you have a toast and you have some vegetables and you have other things with it, you really don't have to drink lots of water with it, but you got to depend on your instinct. If the body needs water, you're going to be thirsty. But get rid of the habit of drinking Coke or beer with the meal or wine, because it's a custom. It is not a habit. It's a custom. That on TV they told us when you eat, you should have wine in Italy, or if you eat, you have to have beer in the United States, or if you eat, you have to have Coke in California, because that's what the TV says to us. But it tastes better. Remember, the advertisers, they work on the taste buds. They will not sell something that doesn't taste good. So they will take a product and they go to the supermarket, the shopping center, and they make you taste it for free taste. And these are the enemies of the society right there. They have a chemical, and they want to try to see which chemical it tastes good. So people eat it because it's free. And then they ask you, how do you like it? Or they see more people coming because they're telling each other. Then they know that product people are going to like. If they put it in the market, people are going to buy it. You follow me? This is very difficult to eat healthy food in a modern society. Very, very difficult. Unless you have to think all the time about the day you're going to have cancer, the day you're going to age, the day you're going to have a heart attack, the day you're going to have this. Maybe you start listening to your instinct a little bit and pay more attention to your digestion. Absorption is very difficult because we need approximately 1,000 million cells to absorb food. 1,000 million, that's 1 billion cell has to be there. Each one special for one thing, but we don't only have one. From each kind, we have 100. So we have 100,000 million cells for absorption. Each one is prepared. So the body is very well prepared to handle stress and infection. Each piece of food has to sit in front of the cell for a period of approximately 5 minutes. So what happens is this: the food goes in the intestine and it stops for I said 5 minutes, about 10 to 20 seconds. The food has to stop in front of the cell for about 10 to 20 seconds, and when the food comes, everything is quiet for 10 seconds, and they start moving again for about 10 seconds. They stop 10 seconds, they move. And if a doctor listens to the bowels, it works and stops, works and stops, works and stops. That's how the bowels work all the time. Because this vitamin or this amino acid, a guy sits inside right here, the cell of the bowel, and let us take one of those cells and make it bigger and see what happens. This is the intestine, the food coming, and this is the cell right here of the absorption. Inside the cell, there is a guy sits right here like a Buddha, and he gets messages from all over the body. He gets a message from the liver, a telephone call, said, we need vitamin C, we need more vitamin E, we need more vitamin B complex. Getting a message from the heart says we need more potassium, we need more sodium, we need more water, we need more salt. Getting a message from the brain, we need more sugar, we need more glucose because it's a little bit low right here, there's a hypoglycemic reaction. Getting a message from the nerve, we need more lecithin, we need more zinc, we need manganese, we need magnesium. You follow me or not? This guy gets all these messages. All he has to do, he writes them in a piece of paper, and he sends it with a messenger right here, right there, to a doorman sits right here. And the doorman gets the message, say, okay, what do we need today? Oh, you need amino acid. Okay. He looks around with his hand and he finds the amino acid and he grabs it. And he puts it inside. That's how difficult it is, absorption is. It's like a computer work. The messages run from the brain to this cell right here with the speed of 30,000 miles per second through the vagus nerve. That shows you how sophisticated millions of things goes on in the same time, and you are eating the hamburger and the salad and you don't even know what's going on inside. Because you're hoping that everything will be, most of things will be absorbed. Does everything we eat get absorbed? No. Most of absorption work on feedback system. You know what the feedback system means? Most of important things, it gets absorbed if you need it. It doesn't get absorbed if you don't need it. So when somebody says, don't take too much vitamin A because it can be toxic, you heard about that. It's really not true, because if you don't need it, you're not gonna, likely you're not gonna absorb it. But the problem is, if you don't have enough vitamin A, let us assume the liver right here is sitting next door, so a cancer going on. He needs the beta-carotene and vitamin A to fight that cancer. So he sent a message to the bowel to say we need vitamin A. But the person did not eat vitamin A, enough vitamin A for enough vegetable, so there is a vitamin A deficiency. And then vitamin E deficiency, and B deficiency, and protein deficiency, and so on, so on, so on. And that's how disease starts happening inside the body gradually. Most of us in this country, we want to prove everything. People come to me, I want a test to see if I'm absorbing everything. Do you know how difficult it is to check for absorption of 100 billion cells to see if they're working or not? It will cost $100 billion. And even so, we don't have the test available. We have to cut every cell out, look at it, be sure it's working, and put it back. You can't do that. So most of people want a proof. Most of the time, you can't have a proof. And the lab tests, you get the CBC and SMA and all of these lab tests are very wrong most of the time. 99% of blood tests are wrong all the time. Because if you, what I mean by wrong all the time, not because blood test is normal, you're healthy. You understand? And when us physicians look at the blood test, first, before even we look at the patient, I've seen doctors, before even they look at the patient, they look at the blood test, oh, you're just fine, you go home. Have you ever heard about that, seen that? That's very wrong, because there is no blood test can tell us everything. As a matter of fact, I learned one lesson one time. We learn every day. One day, with all my knowledge, lecturing all over the world and doing my internal medicine rotation, being on call at night at the VA hospital, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I get a telephone call. I get a call from the ward. telling me, Mr. So-and-so wants to see you. Well, you have to sleep, and you're going to start a class at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to teach a class at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock to the students. I want to get away from waking up and going to see him. So I said, what does he want? With rudeness to the nurse, too. That's what doctors do. I said, well, the nurse has to be polite. She's awake, alert, and you have to work 24 hours. She's working only 8-hour shifts anyway. But that, in turn, has to be 24 hours work all the time. So he has to grab 1 hour here, 2 hours here. And some of you have intern in your family, and you know how difficult it is. So I said, what's his problem? He said, well, he thinks he's going to die. I said, I think you should call Dr. Williams, the psychiatrist, to see him. And she said, no, doctor, really, he wants to see you. I said, okay, what he was admitted for? Well, he was admitted from the emergency room for a broken toe. And we admitted him because we have 24 inches of snow outside, which we had a blizzard that day, 20 below zero. He lives in McKinley. This is North Chicago. It's about 60 miles. We decided to keep him overnight. And here he wants to die. Then he's going to die. Then I went to see him. I said, okay, I have to go. I have no choice. Otherwise I'm not going to graduate from my program if it's reported against me. So I said, what can I do for you? He said, I want to talk to my wife. I said, wait a minute. You said you're going to die now, you want to talk to your wife. You want me to bring a telephone? He said, yeah, the nurse won't let me talk to her because I'm going to die and I want to talk to my wife. I learned the biggest lesson as a doctor in my life that day. I said, sir, your problem is in your toe. Do you have any pain in it? No, I have no problem. I just feel I'm going to die. Then I called his wife. She said, he's crazy. I'm not coming to see him. What do you mean I'm going to die? I'm not going to drive that time. He probably was drinking or something. And then I have to follow the protocol. Somebody wants to check somebody, check the heart, check the blood. I did the blood test. Everything normal. I did the heart test, everything normal. I did blood gases, everything. Everything is fine. And he doesn't have any pain. And then when we're doing the test, he starts having seizures, and he's dying. So wait a minute, we have to call a code here. Start doing CPR on him, and I'm good at doing CPR. One of the best in the hospital. I couldn't bring him back. And all the tests in front of me, normal. So I learned something. There is something in people inside. It tells them something is wrong that we can't explain it. That's true. 10 days ago, I had a girl 24 years old. Maybe it's in the lecture sheet here, I don't know. She came because she had a feeling she's going to have a heart attack. She's getting paranoid about something going to happen. And she went to a hospital. I don't want to mention the name, a big hospital. They admitted her to the hospital. They said they did all the heart tests, and they said everything is fine. So I read the report. Everything is fine. She is crazy, and she needs antidepressants. And the bill was $20,000, something like that, for the hospitalization. Then I said, okay, let me tell you how I do things. I check all the blood. I check the heart. I check everything. I don't care what they did. I'm going to do it myself. My stress test machine was broken that day. So I did the echo, saw a little bit weak valve. I said, maybe it's a mitral valve prolapse. Let me give you some Indral. And then come over tomorrow, we do the stress test. Then I check the stress test next day. I review it. I said, where is she? They said, she just left. I said, I need her. I run to the parking lot. She's really gone. I said, she is going to have a heart attack. 24 years old. So obvious, and it's curable. Remember, most of disease curable if you catch them early, and that's one of those things you can cure. Then I called her home. I said, you got to take this and this and this, and I'm sure she'll be fine. But the problem is, why was she told it's in her head when she is not in her head? And then she's treated with heart medicine, not Valium and imipramine and Eladol. She was received the true thing that she actually needs. So blood test, it doesn't tell us everything. But we have to go by many factors involved. How is the digestive system? How's the heart? How's the general feeling of the person? How happy? How sad? How good? How fatigued? How all of that? And the whole thing works together, and that's how absorption occurs. People who have allergy and yeast infection in their intestine, you heard about yeast and about candida. Candida, sometimes it grows too much in the bowel. When candida grow, because the person eating the wrong food or there's something wrong inside, it interferes with the absorption. How does candida will interfere with absorption? How would it, you think? The intestine, the way it works like this. These guys sitting right here in these doors are told, if you feel any food is not amino acid or sugar or fat or vitamins or water or mineral or fiber, get rid of it. So when somebody has an infection, have diarrhea. So when you have lots of yeast, these patients have lots of diarrhea, lots of bowel movement, and the food doesn't sit in front of the cell long enough to be absorbed, and the food goes in and out, in and out. And to treat candida is not to kill the candida. To treat the candida is to find out why candida is there in too much, because everybody should have some candida inside. Most of the time, changing the food or finding out what's going on here, maybe there is an infection, the absorption gets improved. People who eat the wrong food, poisonous food, spoiled food, if you eat the wrong food, the first thing you feel, sick to your stomach, right? Because the stomach feels something is wrong and you have to vomit it. Any food comes in above the diaphragm, bad, has to go out that way. Any food comes through below the diaphragm has to go out that way. You understand that? So anything above here, you vomit it, and you know anything below here, it goes out through diarrhea. And the more diarrhea, the more change of the bowel habits, the more of that, the less the absorption. Let us leave that area of absorption and go to the area of elimination. The food already been absorbed, and right here the food comes in liquid to the colon. Then the water, all the water with it gets absorbed and the food gets solid. What is the function of the colon? Absorb water and manufacture folic acid. There is a valve right here called the cecum valve. Every food in this side, in the small bowel, the intestine is sterile. There is no germs. Right here, there are germs in the colon. If you take a sample of food from the small bowel, it smells normal. If you take a sample from here, it smells fetid and have a bad smell. What happened there? There are germs right here. Are these germs should be there or shouldn't be there? Should be there. And the first thing the baby gets when he had the mother milk, and his intestine is sterile, and he gets the first germ from her skin, everything is done on purpose. She has germs in the breast to give to the baby. It goes with the food, it travels all the way through and sits in the colon, and that germ sits with you the rest of your life. That's your own germ. Why is that? Why there is a germ there? For a good reason. Because those germs decide they live there when they see viruses, when they see other bacteria, when they see cancer cells, when they see other things, they destroy them for you. So it is not a good idea to eliminate always all the germs inside the colon. As a matter of fact, in medicine, when we check the stool of somebody and we smell it first, that's the first test to smell it, if it doesn't have the odor to it, there's something seriously wrong with that person. It has to smell that way to be normal. Because if it didn't smell that way, it means the bacteria did its job. It broke down everything, got rid of the poison, and manufactured the folic acid. And the stool comes out. From the moment the food goes in to the moment the food goes out, how long do you think it should take? About 24 hours. The meals you ate yesterday should be eliminated tomorrow. The meals you ate today should be eliminated. Yesterday should be today, today should be tomorrow, and so on. But there always some remnant has to stay behind. When we eat and do that, that's fine, that the food has to sit in the colon approximately 12 hours. And 12 hours in the digestion process. If we have a picture of a colon, this is what the colon looks like. And the appendix right here and the small bowel right there. And then it comes out through the rectum. The colon have these cells in it that absorb what? What does it absorb? Water. We just talked about that. If the person ate with the diet plus eating protein and vitamins, there is a chemical with the coming in, such as food additives. Those chemicals will not be absorbed most of the time. Some of it gets absorbed. Some of the chemical can sit right here in this location, or this location, sits right in this location right here, or this location right here, or this location right here, or this location right here most of the time. The movement of stool inside, the slowest around the corners. You can understand why. Because the direction change, it takes power and time to do that. When we have many chemicals in the food, it can irritate these parts of the colon and cause what? Polyps to grow. When the polyps stay longer, they can cause what? Cancer of the colon. This is why it is so important for the colon to be big and large. It is very bad for the colon to be small. The colon should be very big size, about 2 to 3 inches in diameter. But when you don't have enough fiber, the colon becomes like a pencil size. It needs the fibers to expand. Why the fibers have to expand right here? Because that's the only way you can eliminate is when you have lots of fibers. The intestine do not have pain sensation if you cut them. If you go inside somebody, when he's away, and cut with a scissors through the intestine, there's no pain sensation at all. But the only sensation it has if it gets expanded. Once it gets big, it has pain. When it gets pain, it moves food across. So the gas pain you feel and all of that, that's because the intestine only can move when it expands. Are you following me or not following me? The thermostat, like a thermostat, like one of those switches, mercury switch, only when it gets certain size, the food moves. If it never gets that size, the food sits in that spot and the person have constipation. having constipation with chemicals sitting right here, it creates cancer of the colon and polyps. To try to help the colon, we need lots of what? Fibers. Should we have more than one bowel movement a day? Most of the time in this day and age, no. Once a day is enough. However, if you happen to be 17 years old athlete who eats 6 meals a day, who's playing in the Olympics, who have to consume 6,000 calories every day or 7,000 calories, you need more fibers, then you're going to go to the bathroom twice or 3 times. That's okay. But if you're not spending that energy and you're only consuming 1,000 calories, 1,500 calories, or 2,000 calories, then once a day is enough. This is the role of fiber then. Fibers do not get digested. There is no nutritional value in fibers whatsoever. Did you know that or not? Fibers goes in and out. Has no benefit whatsoever except makes the bowel big. So the elimination becomes nicer for the body. The only animals can digest fibers are the animals with 5 stomachs. Like cows, for example. You can feed a cow rotten food, it will eat it, it doesn't bother it. Because it has more than one stomach. Digest anything. When you take a horse, if they eat just rotten hay, they will die from it. Because only have one stomach. You take a human being, eats rotten food, will die from it. Because it has one stomach. We cannot digest fibers because we do not have cellulase enzyme to break cellulose, where cows do have that. This was right here the story of the whole digestive system. If we have problems in the mouth, such as cavities, we not dry mouth, and all of that, we have to take care of that. We have to chew food longer, and don't believe anybody who said you have to eat certain food groups, eliminating others. You heard of that. Some people write in books nowadays that you shouldn't eat fruits with vegetables, you shouldn't eat vegetables with meat, you shouldn't eat meat with beans, you shouldn't eat this with this, you have to separate them. I don't know where they get their education from. I've been in the best universities in the world. I never saw that before. But these people, I guess they get drunk and they have this euphoria and they write this book and then people follow. There is no such thing called food groups. If you watch a horse in the field, he doesn't go to the alfalfa and say, okay, I'm going to eat the flowers now. 1 hour I'm going to eat the roots. 1 hour I'm going to eat that. Nature tell him, eat the whole thing in one time and then be lucky that you got it. Okay, that's the way nature works. There is no reason to worry about that. The most important thing, you should have vegetables with the diet. Always. In the morning, there are vegetables in the morning when you have a whole wheat bread. Of course there is fibers in that. For lunch there is salad and cooked vegetables. For nighttime you can do the same. And if we go back to the triangle right here, we can tell them that maybe we eat the right protein, right carbohydrate, and the right fat, and the vitamins, and the water, and the minerals, but it is not digested or it is not absorbed. That's why there is some signs of disease. What disease we can have if we have malabsorption, maldigestion? What disease is that? Huh? Every disease. Right? Because every cell in the body is going to require the same food, and if it's not there, then you notice there is all kinds of problems. When people develop diseases because the digestive system problem, usually it is many complaints. Start with the body first, then the digestive system is the last to give you symptoms. You get tired, you get fatigued, you have heart problem, you have arthritis, all of that, and then finally you say, well, I'm constipated, I have diarrhea, or I don't absorb, I have so much gas, I have heartburn, and that's how the digestive system affects the body. It is 20 minutes to 9. We've been talking for about an hour and a half. I'm going to take about half an hour in questions, because this topic right here, it can go on and on and on. We can take diverticulitis, hiatal hernia, gallbladder disease, and pancreatitis, 6 hours about it. So I better just get questions and I answer each one better that way. So anybody have questions? Yes, ma'am. Peptic ulcer, you mean? They all be, okay. There is ulcers, okay. There is ulcers in the mouth. Okay, so it's stomach ulcer. That when you're hungry, it hurts, and you have to eat something and it bleeds. If you look at the stomach, I'm glad this is the first question, because that's probably one of the most important questions to understand. The stomach tissue here is not a human-like tissue. It's a very acid-resistant. Having this tissue is glued together, this cell, with vitamin C. Having deficiency of vitamins makes the stomach weak. When the stomach gets weak, the acid leaks inside and eats through the stomach itself. And if it happens to hit an artery traveling through the stomach wall and the acid eats through it, the blood will come out. Then that's called a bleeding ulcer. It can be caused by many things. One of the things we talked about in the past, it can be caused by stress. Ulcers is not caused by stress. Ulcers aggravated by stress. If you have a bleeding ulcer, one of the most important things you have to do first is to know, is it an ulcer or is it a cancer ulcer? That's number one. And is it really ulcer is bleeding, or is it varicose veins of the stomach bleeding? There is another bleeding from the stomach caused by varicose veins in people who drink lots of alcohol, or people who have cancer, who have lots of hiatal hernia. They can bleed through those things. So you can't really have a diet for ulcer. It depends what kind. If this is happen to be a regular ulcer, bleeding ulcer, and shallow, then you have to eat antacids to eliminate the acid and give for about 6 months first until the stomach heals. Stomach will never heal as long as the acid is there. That's the way it has to be. The things that help to heal ulcer is you have to have the food that it doesn't aggravate the ulcer. Acid food aggravate ulcers. Vegetables help ulcers. Eating lots of vegetables is good anti-acid. Salad is good anti-acid. Milk is okay anti-acid because it's not a strong anti-acid milk. Like 15 alfalfa tablets for an ulcer, or 10 alfalfa tablets for an ulcer, it's better than 4 calcium. And those are better than a glass of milk. Because the milk is diluted anti-acid, where the alfalfa is concentrated dehydrated anti-acid. You see, it's already. So you really have to drink lots of milk to do it. And you drink lots of milk, then you get diarrhea, or you get overweight, or you have that. So you have to take the anti-acid in form of dried pills, like Maalox or Mylanta or baking soda or alfalfa or calcium or protein or vegetables, something like that. But ulcers are very dangerous to have. Ulcer more than 6 months, it can convert to cancer. So an ulcer doesn't heal for 6 months. The person has to be very careful because that ulcer can get bigger and bigger and can perforate through the other side. In general, anti-acid diet is high fiber diet and high protein diet, and you have to apply the whole triangle in healing any disease, include ulcers. You really can't expect the ulcer heals well when you're under lots of stress, because the stress itself generates acids all the time. And we have to figure ways to get rid of stress. You can't get rid of stress by diet. Stress is something emotional. It's something you have to work with. So meditation is good to get rid of stress. Praying is a good way to get rid of stress. Sleep is a good way to get rid of stress. Vacation is a good way to get rid of stress. Get rid of the person who's causing the stress himself, a good way to get rid of stress. The job itself can cause the stress. So you have to think, what's making that? I think in maybe February lecture, I would like to speak about the role of dental and nutrition together, how nutrition works with mental healing, how can you be so positive that you can heal using nutrition at the same time. I think I'm going to be lecturing on something like that in the church on the 22nd of October. They want me to lecture the role of meditation in nutrition in healing disease. I never lectured like that before, but it is something related to what you're talking about. There is an ulcer, you got to get rid of stress to try to heal it. But you have to have the proper nutrition too. You can't expect to heal an ulcer when you drink alcohol, because alcohol itself destroys the digestive enzymes in the mouth, destroys the digestive enzymes in the stomach. Alcohol itself is acid in a way, and if you put alcohol on a cell, bacteria, if you have a germ, a live germ, and you put alcohol on it, what happens to it? It kills it. So really, if somebody want to have a drink, should have it, but not with the food. Alcohol should be used as a drug, not as a pleasure. Somebody under lots of stress want to have a glass of wine, that's fine. But it should not be with the meal. You cannot just have stress and eat and have wine all in the same time. Either you're under stress and have the wine and go to sleep, or you're going to eat the meal and enjoy it without the wine. If you're going to eat, you're not under stress really. Because if you're under stress, you shouldn't be hungry. But sometimes people, when they get depressed from stress, then they put it in food and they eat too much. Can excess vitamin D cause kidney stone? I learned something. Any question with the word can, the answer is yes. So, but would I worry about it myself? No. Because, this is another question. I was still with this question right here. Let me finish with that, and I move to that question. That is about the ulcer we're talking about, because if the ulcer in a young person, it's very rare to have a young person, 17, 18, 20 years old with an ulcer. But you know, I have seen septic ulcer disease in 6 and 7 years old kids. I've seen it. I think kids was cramped, and the mother and the doctor said, there's nothing wrong with him. He wants attention. When I did a stool guaiac, I find it positive for blood. And there was a bleeding ulcer. So ulcers are very dangerous, and I'm glad you asked that question about it, because you've got to have the diagnosis first, what kind of ulcer. Then the treatment is basically the diet. If that ulcer is in the duodenum, not in the stomach, now we're talking about two different locations. Stomach is acid, and any acid is going to make more ulcers. But duodenum is alkaline, then you have to take acid to heal the duodenal ulcer. Where you have to take antacid to heal the stomach ulcer. Who tell us that? Gastroenterologists. We get a guy, a doctor specialist, and have him look inside, and he looks inside and take a sample of the ulcer, analyze the pH, and he give me a report. He said there's an ulcer and the pH is acid. This means I have to give antacid. Well, if he said the pH is alkaline, then I have to give acid. Then in a bile ulcer, gallbladder ulcer, that type of ulcer, we tell the person, eat more tomatoes, eat more oranges, eat more acid food. Where if it is a stomach ulcer, we said avoid the acid food and go to alkaline food. You understand that? Okay. But you said the word bleeding ulcer, and that little bit is scary to me because anything that bleeds inside is very serious. And to answer the question about vitamin D and kidney stones, there is really no direct correlation between them. Nephrologists, which I work under one of the best nephrologists in the world, Dr. Murphy, my professor, he taught me that. He will always try to teach me that, yeah, vitamin D and calcium mixed stones, vitamin called stones, vitamin. I never believed them. But I had to listen to pass the board. Because I really find out from seeing over 10,000 patients in the last 7 years that even kidney stones, we let them eat all the calcium they want and the vitamin D, but because the diet was all balanced, the stone got smaller, not bigger. When we told them don't eat any vitamin D and calcium, the stone didn't get bigger, but still there. Because kidney stone is a bad calcium metabolism in the kidney. It's not from the high calcium or high vitamin D. So try not to put too many blames and nutrients as a cause of disease. Because being in practice in preventive medicine, solely preventive medicine, lecturing for 20 years, it is true. Nutrition can hurt. If you ate 500 tablets of vitamin C at one time, you're going to have an ulcer. If you take 10 L blacks at one time, you're going to have diarrhea. But we're not talking about fanatics. We're talking about decent, common sense nutrition. I didn't see that. As a matter of fact, I tell you a small story on that question. I saw a patient 3 days ago. She's about, I think, 26 years old, cancer of the breast with metastasis to the bone. The cancer is already spread all over. She's a skeleton, and she was sent home. There's nothing you can do. Chemotherapy didn't work, radiation didn't work. I saw her in my other office in Hoffman State, which office had nothing to do with nutrition. It's an emergency room. And a person just walks in talking to a nutritionist. She doesn't know I am a nutritionist. She's just saying, I have cancer, and the doctor said go home and die, and I saw the clinic said emergency. Can you do anything for me? And she doesn't know me. She doesn't know how much knowledge I have in nutrition or any of that. Her problem was loss of calcium. Because cancer is dissolved in the bones, in the blood, making calcium, and that's why the brain dizzy. So I had to give her chelation to take that calcium out and give her more calcium by mouth to replace it. So you're going to have to work with both sides of the metabolism. And, excuse me 1 second. For the new people here, when I answer a question, I take my time in it, regardless how long it takes. Okay, so it might take one question, and that's it. It might take more than one. Because every question really is a lecture itself to benefit lots of other people. That's a very good question on calcium and kidney stones, because all doctors tell the patients, don't touch nutrition if you have kidney stones, and that's wrong. Completely wrong. Gentleman in the back. Yes, sir. Yes.
cells forever.
Yes.
There's still some of those cells in the colon that are doing the same job as those that were removed.
In colon case, yes. In a small intestine, no. Colostomy is removing part of the colon. Colon absorbs water. So if you lose 2/3 of it, still plenty left to absorb water. But let me finish. But if you happen to have ileostomy, not colostomy, means removing the small intestine, you're asking for lots of trouble. Because that is absorption of nutrients right there. So colostomy is not as bad, but ileostomy is a disaster. Hole in the colon. Well, first of all, having lack of fibers for years, it's weakened the cells right here. And the glue between the cells starts going away with malnutrition and less fibers and less circulation. And a pouch develops, very thin. We call that pouch diverticulitis. Normal colon has layers of cells. For example, let's say 30 of them in layers. In diverticulum is only one single layer. So one single layer, if you ate the wrong stuff, or there's a piece of bone didn't get digested, or seed didn't get digested, or enema or gas or something, blow it, and that make a hole in the colon, it can be fatal. But I'm going to take advantage of your question to mention something about something very important happening these days. It should be stopped. Some people are giving enemas to others. Some people going around giving clonics to clean the colon for others. There are clinics around this country just going around, let me clean your colon for you. Believe it or not, it's happening 1988 in the United States of America. That is very, very dangerous. That can rupture the diverticulum and kill the person. Inserting anything right here in the colon itself in the rectum is dangerous because it's dirty, filthy area, and any irritation by enemas all the time, every week, it can create diseases like AIDS, diseases like infections, like hemorrhoids, and like others. And besides, why do you want to put fluid in that direction when everything moving in that direction? You understand? The mechanics of it, it's just nuts against each other. But let me ask you this. Do you think the person who got the enema feels better after that or not? They do. Because why should they have to work and train to have a bowel movement like all of us? Somebody's coming to take it out for them all the time. So they become dependent on these people all the time, and they feel better for a while, and eventually they develop rupture of the colon. But I also will go even further than that to tell some of you, have you heard about coffee enemas? Some of you. Somebody is going around giving coffees in enemas. You know, there's got to be a better way to drink coffee than take it in enema. Not only that, but you know yourself that coffee is not that good. It's okay to have a cup once in a while. It's okay. But they use gallons of coffee at an enema. And you know very well that's toxic to the intestine. And they're going around doing that, and that can cause cancer of the pancreas, which has been proven. So I take advantage of one question to answer all these things related to it. Enemas should be preserved for whom? A person with infection in a nursing home, a person who is really solid inside that we have to evacuate them. And that's Or a person needs a test to check for polyps or cancer or something like that. How often are you going to do that? Once a year or once every 2 years? That's okay. All right, yes. The question is, what function is lost with the loss of gallbladder? Seems like a night of good questions. You know, maybe I stay here all night. Okay. If you look at the food coming from above, all the food coming is water soluble. The protein is water soluble. Starches is water soluble. The vitamin is water soluble. The calcium, the water, except grease and fat, is not water soluble. Here you have a piece of fat going to be absorbed in a cell full of water. It's impossible. So what happens, the liver right here secretes substance called soap, like the regular soap, called the bile. The bile is soap. That's all it is. The soap mixes with the fat and makes emulsion. Just like when you mix soap with fat, it becomes water soluble then, so you can wash your hands. And that emulsion can be absorbed. So the gallbladder, it concentrates that. So when you lose the gallbladder, you cannot eat too much fat in one time anymore. You have to eat small quantity of fat at a time, and the liver still secretes that bile when you eat. But not as good as if it was all really nice bile. You can enjoy a nice fatty, greasy meal and it tastes good. You cannot do that once you lose the gallbladder, because it goes through you, in and out. How do you know that? When you see the stool gets in the toilet and it sticks to the side, it's greasy, this means there is a problem in the gallbladder, and that stool is not water soluble. It should be water soluble stool. There is indigestion or malabsorption of fat then. Lecithin in the gallbladder, you gotta understand there is other function in the bile besides just this. The lecithin, it helps to keep the bile in the gallbladder in a soluble state. When the liquid in the gallbladder it becomes insoluble, it forms little stones. So lecithin prevents that. That's all it does in the gallbladder. But lecithin has other function in the liver, in the brain, in the skin, in the lung, and other parts of the body. Yes, ma'am. Okay, some people like pass the pills they take or pass the food undigested indicates that the stomach didn't do its job. Indicates maybe the stomach has little acid, or maybe the food doesn't stay in the stomach very long, or the stomach is too weak. That person who passes the pills with undigested particles should eat more fresh vegetables and should chew food more. But you cannot chew pills. Some of them taste terrible, but you take it after you eat the meal, not before the meal then. But if we're talking about that, undigested particles, let's talk about people who take acid from outside to help digestion. Should we take acid from outside or not? If we have lack of acid, should we take acid from outside or not? The answer is no. Because the acid from outside is always dangerous all the time. It makes you feel good for a while, it helps digestion, but in the long run it's going to cause an ulcer in the stomach. Is there any test to check if you're making enough acid or not? There are tests, but they are tests very expensive and has to be done by a university hospital or a gastroenterologist. How about those people make you swallow a pill or a tape or something until you have a lack of acid? It's baloney. It doesn't it doesn't tell us anything because the acid in the stomach, 1 minute when you smell the food is there, when you don't smell it is not there. You cannot depend on tests about acid of the stomach, but you cannot take it from outside. But should we take digestive enzymes or not? The answer, we really should depend on our own body to manufacture the enzymes. Because one thing very important I'm going to tell you, that there is nothing you eat from outside stays alive. Nothing you eat from outside stays alive. Stomach destroys everything. Every hormone you ate, unless it is made especially to pass through the stomach coated, it will be destroyed by the stomach. Every enzyme you ate in the vegetable will be destroyed by the stomach. The stomach will not allow anything alive to go through. Everything has to be broken down to ingredients, single amino acid, single carbohydrate, single starches, and when you absorb it, your body will make your own hormones, your own vitamins, your own things. You cannot depend on outside help. You have to, maybe if you have an ulcer, some yogurt will help for a while. Maybe if you have gas, yogurt will help for a while. But you really should be able, the stomach should be healthy enough to eat anything and digest it, anything reasonable, and digest it without too much problem. What? No, there are some people still hydrochloric acid pills. And I tell you worse than that. There is a guy, he is either a priest or a preacher or something, he teaches religion, Christianity, in Florida, came out with the idea in his mind. I don't know how he came out with that. He doesn't have any knowledge in nutrition or medicine whatsoever, that if you drink hydrogen peroxide, you're going to be younger. I can believe in this country this thing happening, I can believe it. And it's spread all over the country now. Even when I was in California, people talking about it. Oh, I'm drinking my hydrogen peroxide. Who told you to do that? Oh, yeah, that guy in Florida, he said the miracles healed, everything got healed. Of course, when you eat enough poison, you're not going to feel anything because you're going to die. And if you really want to do it fast, just take a cyanide, and you're not going to feel anything in 5 minutes. So you can't do that. And have you heard about that? Anybody here about the hydrogen peroxide drink? No. Some of you did, right? Please, if you hear about it from somebody, tell them, don't touch it. Hydrogen peroxide is a very poisonous and dangerous thing to drink. I can't believe I have to speak about this 1988. But it's happening right now. FDA doesn't know about it, and they sell it with a high price. And you know what they're selling on the bottle? It's a special hydrogen peroxide. It's not your regular poisonous one. Just like selling cyanide, they said, well, really, that doesn't kill you right away. That takes 1 hour. You can't do, we've got to use the knowledge, because I tell you what, the more I studied in medicine, the more I become more religious and respected that God has to be the best scientist there. And he is not ignorant. He does everything with perfection. So why man has to come and screw it up and say, okay, we got to eat dirt. Somebody's selling dirt in tablets in California against cancer. Just regular dirt in capsules. You're going to have to get a little bit smarter and know one thing. Eat the regular food grown in earth, the protein, the carbohydrate, the fat, the vitamins, the water, and the minerals. Get rid of some stress. Avoid chemicals. Do some exercises and all of that. Give the body a chance, and it will heal itself. You don't need that magic cure, because it just doesn't happen that easy. Yes? No, colitis does not interfere with absorption. It's like ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel. When the colon is so irritated and bleeding, usually the stomach and the small bowel and the pancreas shut. They don't work. Because you see, the whole digestive system, that's something you should know. The whole digestive system, from above to below, all this digestive system right here, all of these organs right here send their messages to the brain with one single nerve. So if you have pain in your kidney, you wouldn't know is it kidney or colon. If you have pain in the colon, you wouldn't know it's colon or stomach. If you have pain in the stomach, you wouldn't know it's a stomach or a gallbladder. If you have a pain in the stomach, you wouldn't know it's a stomach or a heart, because all the pain goes to the brain through one single nerve, and the brain cannot tell which one is in trouble. So when you have a stomach pain, usually the doctor is confused. We are confused because we don't know which one is sending the message. You understand? Okay, that is the problem with the colon. So when there is colitis here, the pancreas shuts, and you have nausea and you have symptoms. Even kidney, which have nothing to do at all with the digestive system, when somebody had a kidney stone, they vomit and they have diarrhea. So they must all connect to each other. And that's how colitis interferes with absorption and digestion. The digestive system from here all the way down, you irritate the mouth, the colon gets irritated. You irritate the colon, the stomach gets irritated. They're all connected to each other with one single nerve. Just one second. Yes, ma'am. Okay, the definition of a laxative is something to make the bowel movement move within 24 hours. Right? It should not hurt the absorption if it is that way. But if the laxative makes you go more than once every 24 hours, then of course it can. The more diarrhea you have, the less absorption you're going to have. But as long as you ask this question, should we depend a laxative if we're constipated? We're going to have to depend on normal food first, like fibers, alfalfa tablets, vegetables, all of these things, and water and exercise. And then if it doesn't work, then we take extra laxatives. But there are some people not so lucky who can do all of that. There are some people, if they take some fibers, it irritates to their bowel, irritable bowel disease. Then they can't take salad. They cannot eat lettuce. And they get constipated. They can have some laxative then. But when you talk about laxative, there is organic, the natural kind, and there is the chemical kind. So you stick with the natural, with herbs, that it is not harmful to the body. Okay, yes, ma'am. Well, okay, let's not talk about personal problem here, because one thing I'm going to tell you, and I said it in the lecture, when you have one disease, you have 10 others. When you want to heal one, you have to heal the others. And sometimes you have to heal one before you get to the other one. So the problem is, yeah, you have arthritis, you have to take something for the pain, because you're not really healing the arthritis, you are treating the symptoms of the arthritis. If the doctor is working on the healing itself of the arthritis through maybe nutrition, through diet, maybe the stomach eventually will get better. As long as you take in the medications, you're going to have an ulcer. As long as you have an ulcer, you're going to have anemia. Then you have to take Tagamet. And that's one thing causes the other problems. I am going to put a telephone right here in the end of the lecture. If anybody have any more questions, Dr. Pierce is my assistant, and most of you know him. His number is 843-8860, and he's worked from